Life can feel chaotic. We face pressures and uncertainties, but there's a better way to live. It's about putting God first in everything we do. When we seek His kingdom above all else, we discover true peace and fulfillment. We find a life that is richer and more meaningful than we could ever imagine. It's about aligning our hearts with God's purpose for our lives. When we surrender our desires to Him, He begins to work in amazing ways. Our priorities shift. This doesn't mean life will be perfect, but with God as our guide, we can face challenges with courage and hope. So how do we put this into practice? It starts with a simple decision, a choice to seek Him first. In the book of Matthew, Jesus gives us a powerful promise. He says, "But seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you." Matthew 6:33. This verse is a cornerstone of the Christian faith. It speaks to the very core of what it means to follow Jesus. It's a reminder that when we put God first, everything else falls into place. Jesus understood the worries and anxieties we face in life. He knew that we would be tempted to put our trust in material possessions or in the approval of others. But He calls us to a higher purpose. He invites us to seek something far greater than ourselves. This promise is not about getting everything we want. It's about trusting that God will provide for our needs when we put Him first. When we do this, we can let go of our worries and trust in His perfect plan. We discover the joy that comes from living in right relationship with Him. When we prioritize God, we open ourselves up to incredible blessings. One of the most significant benefits is spiritual growth. As we spend time with Him in prayer and in His Word, we grow closer to Him. We begin to understand His character more deeply. This spiritual growth leads to greater guidance in our lives. When we are in tune with God's will, we are better equipped to make wise decisions. This guidance gives us confidence and direction as we navigate the challenges of life. Another incredible benefit of prioritizing God is peace. The world is full of chaos and uncertainty, but when our hearts are focused on God, we experience a peace that surpasses all understanding. This peace is not the absence of problems. It's the assurance that God is in control, no matter what we face. When we put God first, we gain an eternal perspective. Life's challenges can feel overwhelming, but when we view them through the lens of eternity, they take on a different meaning. We realize that our time on earth is limited. Our focus shifts from the temporary to the eternal. We begin to invest in things that will last. This eternal perspective changes our priorities. We are less concerned with accumulating material possessions. Our relationships become more precious. We understand that true wealth is not measured in material possessions, but in the richness of our relationship with God and others. This perspective also gives us hope. We have the assurance of a future filled with joy and peace in the presence of God. Practical steps, daily devotion. So, how do we practically prioritize God in our daily lives? It starts with cultivating a heart of devotion. One of the most important things we can do is to spend time with God each day. This doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. Even a few minutes of focused prayer and Bible reading can make a world of difference. When we spend time with God, we are feeding our souls. We are filling ourselves with His truth and love. We are strengthening our relationship with Him. Start by setting aside a specific time each day for your devotional time. Find what works best for you and be consistent. Choose a quiet place where you can focus without distractions. As you read His Word, ask God to speak to you through it. Worship and service. Beyond personal devotion, prioritizing God also involves actively participating in corporate worship and serving others. When we gather with other believers, we are encouraged and strengthened in our faith. Worship is about more than just singing songs. It's about surrendering our hearts to God, acknowledging His greatness, and expressing our love and gratitude. Serving others is another practical way to prioritize God. When we serve others, we are reflecting God's love to the world. The key is to find ways to use our gifts and talents to bless others. God has uniquely equipped each of us to make a difference in the world. When we serve others, we experience the deep satisfaction that comes from living a life of purpose. A life transformed. I've seen the transformative power of prioritizing God in my own life and in the lives of countless others. It's a journey that begins with a single step of faith, a decision to put God first. It's a commitment to seek His will above our own desires. And as we surrender to His plan, we begin to experience the abundant life He promised. I remember a time when I was facing a difficult situation. I was filled with worry and anxiety. But then, I remembered the promise of Matthew 6:33. I knew that I needed to trust God and seek His will above all else. As I surrendered my worries to Him, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. He provided for my needs in ways I could never have imagined. This is just one example of how prioritizing God can transform our lives. When we put Him first, we open ourselves up to His blessings in ways we never thought possible. Living with God at the center, friends, the journey of faith is not always easy. There will be times when we stumble and fall, but even in those times, God is faithful. He never leaves us nor forsakes us. Let us encourage one another to seek first the kingdom of God in all that we do. Let us make Him the center of our lives, the source of our strength, and the object of our affection. The world needs the hope and love that only God can provide. Let us go out into the world shining brightly for Him, sharing His love with everyone we meet. For when we seek first the kingdom of God, everything else will fall into place.